Well, hello and welcome to episode 3 this time of the podcast, The Hustle. We're here with my good friend Nigel Barros, who is, well, I'll have him explain who he is more. But for those of you who are new to this podcast, what we do here is we talk to other creative entrepreneurs to hear more about their journey and how they got started and what they're doing now, because I feel like there could be some gatekeeping in the industry, and I want to take that away, and I want people to really kind of see that there's so many different ways to get started doing creative work. And so that's what this podcast is here for. So I'm going to let Nigel introduce himself, and we'll get this episode going.
Yeah, cool. Well, yeah, so like Jeremy said, my name is Nigel Barros. I guess I'm probably what you would consider a content creator, but I also do freelance work. So I've been making like YouTube videos probably since 2006. I've been uploading, but I've been like full-time on YouTube since 2020. So YouTube up until that point was just kind of like a passive thing. You know, I made a couple extra bucks here and there. Then 2020, my channel kind of blew up. And so I kind of quit my day job, quit freelancing, and just went straight into YouTube full-time. And since then, there's been a lot of like highs and lows. But like right now, I've kind of been transitioning into doing YouTube, but also taking on freelance clients. So that's kind of what makes up most of, my income.
Yeah, so I remember one of my first introductions to you was your viral video. And that was the one where it was like taking a cheap camera from, this ugly lighting to this beautiful lighting. So that was like the first video that I watched of yours, and that's kind of how I started on my journey, continually watching you. Talk about. So anyway, I'm getting ahead of myself here. Let's go back. When you started doing YouTube, how did that process from the first time you picked up a camera to starting YouTube full time? What was that like?
Yeah, so I started making videos like a lot of people in the industry do because I'm a skateboarder, and so I picked up a camera because I wanted to film skateboarding, and I did film skateboarding. In fact, most of my first YouTube channels that I started were strictly about skateboarding, and so I picked up my camera, started making skate videos, and then as soon as YouTube was a thing, I was like, oh, this is a great place to post my YouTube videos because then all my friends could see them, and I really wanted to be like a skate filmer. Like that was like my dream as a kid. And so I would like post skate videos, and it wasn't too long after that. I mean, when I first picked up a camera, I was like 14, but by the time I was like 18, I kind of realized that like becoming a full-time skate filmer was going to be pretty difficult, especially living up in Portland, Oregon. Like most of the action was happening down in California. So that's when I kind of transitioned into doing other stuff other than filming skateboarding. But that's kind of how it all started. It started out with skateboarding and just wanting to post skate videos on YouTube for my friends to see.
And once you started YouTube, how did that kind of change the trajectory of what you were going to do? Because I know we've talked about this, but you were working part-time, and then... Yeah, so talk a little bit more too about the like how once you kind of started YouTube, then you kind of, your trajectory too.
Yeah. So when I was probably like 21, I got an opportunity to go work with a buddy of mine down in Houston, and him and his business partner started a YouTube channel that ended up getting really big back in like the mid 2000s. And so I was kind of like an intern / camera operator / just, assistant for their YouTube channel. And that kind of really opened my eyes into like the whole world of YouTube, because even though I'd been posting stuff, it's just like, goofy skateboarding videos on the platform up until then. It wasn't until I started working with them that I realized like, oh, people are making crazy money on YouTube. Like even back then, I got a little bit of a sneak peek behind, some like the AdSense money that even my buddy's channel was making. And I couldn't believe it. Like when I saw it, I was like, wow, that's more than my dad makes in a year, and they're making it in a month. So that's what kind of like opened my eyes of like, oh my gosh, like this could actually be something. So I think that's when like the whole like, that's when like the seed got planted, I guess, is like when I saw that there was like really good potential to like make a career off of making YouTube videos. That's when I started to want to take it a little bit more seriously. So I think from, my early 20s into like my mid to late 20s, that's when I was really trying to like, prioritize at least posting, a little bit on YouTube so that I could start growing an audience. But yeah, like I had always liked posting stuff on YouTube, and I really like, I kind of fell into like, hey, I just learned this. Why don't I post a video showing what I learned so that other people can, pick up on it quicker.
I don't know what happened, but the GH6 stopped recording. So how, you say you noticed that you could make a ton of money off of YouTube and like AdSense and all that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. When did you know that the filmmaking thing was your niche? You say, oh, I would learn something and I would talk about it. How did you, like, when did you know that, okay, this is really where I'm going to go with my channel?
Yeah. I think I fell into the filmmaking niche because I really liked cameras, and I found myself, it was like really easy for me to talk about cameras, and I loved learning, everything that there was to know about, all the new cameras that came out. And so I found myself naturally falling into that niche. I was also, kind of like my freelance gigs were in the wedding filmmaking space. So I kind of, I don't know, it was like a natural progression for me to just fall into the filmmaking space as opposed to anything else. And I think that's true for a lot of skate filmers. They fall into, they end up, going into commercials and stuff like that, which is, right now, that's kind of where I hope to go in the future. So yeah, it stemmed from skateboarding, and then it just kind of like naturally progressed into filmmaking because I was just really interested in cameras, I think.
And what were some challenges that you faced kind of as you started your YouTube journey that, like, I don't know. I mean, I know that you started your journey in a time when YouTube, I think, was a little more, I don't want to say easier to grow on, because it wasn't necessarily easier to grow on, but I feel like now everything is so saturated. So what were some of the challenges that you faced when you started that might, I don't know how I want to phrase that. So just, take it to challenges.
Yeah. I feel like, like you said, when, like back in 2006, YouTube was, like, I don't know, what did it start in 2005? So like in 2006, it was just like, it was barely a thing. Like, even uploading on YouTube, I think, especially in like the skateboarding industry, was almost like kind of cringy to do. But like, as I was, seeing YouTube grow and grow and grow, I definitely think that like it was probably a little bit easier back in like the early days of YouTube because just less people were doing it. I do think that like, views were a little easier to come by, and you didn't necessarily have to play the whole thumbnail title YouTube game just because there wasn't as many people producing content. So, even when I was, making skate videos, I could get 50,000 views on a video sometimes if it was like, like right place, right time, which that doesn't seem like a lot in today's YouTube, YouTube space, but like 50,000 views back in like 2008 was insane. Like that was crazy views. So I feel like it wasn't necessarily super hard to like post and, do like relatively okay in views, especially for like the size of my YouTube channels back then, which were like I don't think I surpassed 5,000 subscribers on any of my earliest YouTube channels. But I think that like where I found struggling was just like the quality of my videos. And it's because most really good cameras were really expensive back then. So I tried all the tricks to, make my video camera, look better, like, putting the anamorphic bars on it so it looked a little bit more cinematic. And, I did all the tricks of, like exporting it in, 1080p, even though it was a 720p video, just like all those things to just try to make it look better. But that's where I think it's definitely easier now, where it's just like you can spend, $500 on a camera and it'll look a million times better than what we had back in 2006, you know?
Yeah, because you actually just came out with that video on the GH5 versus S5 2X, comparing them, and like, yeah, the S5 2X is better in a lot of ways, but like the fact that you're even able to compare the two cameras in 2025, that's what year we're in 2025
Yeah.
is actually kind of crazy that like you even a camera like the GH5 is still good enough to get people started on YouTube, and it
Oh,
makes it
absolutely.
way more easy for people to get into.
Yeah. And that's where I think it's weird just because like in 2025, any comparison of any camera, I feel like it's just like these negligible upgrades, you know, where it's just like if you sat someone down in a theater, shot the exact same like scene with like 20 of the latest cameras that came out in the past 5 years, and you told someone to like, okay, tell me which one is which, no one would be able to do it. You know what I mean? Whereas like if if I showed you a clip from my Sony TRV 350 and my GH5, like it would be like night and day difference. You know what I mean?
No, I completely understand, because like camera technology has grown so much in the past 10 years, and I think about like I use cameras that were made back in like what 2017 or so, the Pocket 4Ks, and then 6K Pro is 5 years ago or so, and it's like, yeah, camera technology has improved in those 5 years, 5 to 8 years, but like so negligibly that like we're comparing cameras that are 10 years old to brand new cameras. And like you and I have had this discussion. I'm not a Sony person. I don't see the appeal of Sony, but there are people that are like, oh yeah, well, like the readout speeds are faster or things of that nature. And it's like, yes, that's great, but the FX3 is still $4,000 when you could get a used S5 2X for $1,700. That can do 90% of what it can do. So it's cool to see that, like, with like the FX30, a relatively low priced camera can compete with higher priced cameras. And it's so
Yeah. I definitely think that it's more like as you grow as a filmmaker, you start finding those little things that like you want in a camera. So it's not so much like every camera can do 4K, every camera can do almost like almost every camera can do 6K, every camera has 10-bit, every camera has log, every camera has like slow motion features. But then it's just starting to like be a little bit more nitpicky when you're further on in your career, where it's like, I want internal NDs, I want RAW, I want an OLPF on my sensor so that I don't get crazy moire. It's like those little tiny things where it's just like, in the grand scheme of things, for most beginners, those don't matter. But like as you start to get further along in your career, I think that's when you start getting a little bit more nitpicky with your cameras.
yeah, no, I totally get that. I mean, I started off with the GH5 and I loved that camera till the day that I stopped using it. Well, actually, until it finally kicked the bucket. It was a sad day.
Yeah.
Now, you mentioned earlier the idea of this, thumbnail, this clickable stuff, but also the whole like vertical quick video has kind of revolutionized our industry, both in bad and good ways. How have you seen that change YouTube?
I've definitely seen more channels like almost get built off the back of YouTube Shorts, which is crazy to me. Like YouTube Shorts didn't even like, it hasn't existed for a very long time. And just for reference, like I got monetized on my main channel back when like the whole, like you had to apply for the YouTube partnership program, and it was like a totally different like criteria than it is now. So like even just like the idea of like building a channel and trying to get those 4,000 watch hours and those 1,000 subscribers, like that's something that like is like definitely like a new, like it's like relatively new, at least for someone like me who's been on YouTube for such a long time. But I've seen like people grow their entire channels just off of YouTube Shorts, which is really cool. I've tried dabbling in YouTube Shorts, but it's kind of like just one of those extra things that I'll have to do, and I like the longer form content anyways. I don't have any beef with anyone that posts, YouTube shorts, especially if it's working, like go for it. But I personally have never found myself on YouTube scrolling shorts. I'm more of an Instagram reel type of guy. So I think that it's cool that like that's an option now, especially if you're the type of creator who, is more used to that, like especially like, like the newer generation of content creators who, create content for TikTok. I think that it's a pretty easy, transition into YouTube shorts.
No, I agree. What I've noticed is that like shorts has helped grow my channel a bit more than like long form videos, but I still see the importance of long form videos, and like I still see the importance of talking about like, things in a more long form nature. So
Mm-hmm.
I think it's interesting because like you think now everyone's like, oh, you need to have a good intro hook to hook people into the video. But I feel like back in like 2015 to 18, it was more just like how, people were more able to sit for longer periods of time and watch videos. And so you didn't need to do any of this trickery. You just,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, maybe I'm wrong here when I say that it kind of more was you would stay to watch the video if somebody's content was good. It didn't have to have any flashy stuff like, the retention based editing. It could be more like the Sam Sulek vlogs now.
Yeah. I do think that there is like a resurgence of videos that are a little bit more calm and collected and less Mr. Beast. Like I personally, I don't resonate with that type of editing, like that Mr. Beast crazy quick, cuts and whatever. Like I know that it works. I know that, for building a channel like that, it's, probably a really good idea, but like I'm way more like I gravitate way more towards the people who are just a little bit, I don't know, they let the video breathe a little bit,
Yeah.
and I still see people like that, doing pretty well on YouTube. You know what I mean? There's a lot of, film photography YouTube pages that I watch where it's just literally them. They set up a tripod and they go out and they, you'll see a one take that lasts like 2 minutes of just them walking out and taking a film photograph, and then they post the photo or whatever. And they still do really well on YouTube. So I think that there is a place for the people who don't want that like constant barrage of like cuts and, sound effects and crazy stuff just throwing at you. I definitely think that like short form stuff is kind of making that type of editing work because people have such short attention spans, it seems, that they like need to have something, different happen so quickly in the video. But, I'm probably in the minority where it's like I'd rather not watch those videos and just watch a much more, calm video, I suppose.
No, I'm kind of the same way. I'd much rather watch like behind the scenes vlogs that people are doing now. It's like I'd much rather sit and watch that for 10, 15 minutes than a Mr. I don't even watch Mr. Beast, to be honest. I don't think I've seen a single video of his. Cause it's just not my cup of tea. I mean, same with the Logan Jake Paul stuff. Like that stuff's not my cup of tea, but I mean, it works for them. Fine. Like,
yeah, I think that like there's different seasons of YouTube, it seems. And it seems like I kind of hope at least that like the season of the Mr. Beast will like, slowly trickle out and that people will kind of get like, a little bit exhausted with it at some point, but who knows?
yeah, I agree with you there. I'm sick of the whole like retention editing thing. It's just like, okay, there's too much going on. My brain cannot focus.
Yeah.
Yeah. So then going back to more business focus stuff, how have you, so obviously YouTube has its benefits of kind of picking your time when you want to work. I would say YouTube is a little bit more flexible than say corporate work like what I do. I feel like YouTube,
Yeah.
you can kind of do it whenever. So how do you find your schedule? Like, how do you find, what am I trying to say here? Like, what's your motivation like to get up to make your YouTube videos? Because you don't really, I mean, I know you have some deadlines, but like, how do you, how has your, I'm not good with words, people here. How has your process changed, or how have you kind of adapted to this more like fluid lifestyle?
Yeah. So I would definitely say YouTube is kind of like, I mean, yes, you can create your own schedule, but as soon as you start getting the sponsorships and contracts, it kind of feels like working for a client. Yeah, I can technically work whenever I want to, but at the end of the day, I still need to get like a sponsored video done because I signed a contract that I would do it. And I still need to send it over for approvals at a certain amount of time. So like there are still deadlines and I still do have to like do things by a certain timeline, but at the same time, I do have the option of just, making what I want to make. And typically the sponsors that I work with aren't like super, strict about what I can and can't make as far as like, the content inside of my videos. Back when before I kind of blew up, like I would say from 2016 to 2019, YouTube was definitely a lot more passive. So it was more, I just made a video whenever I want to. And I worked a part-time job during that time. I worked for Portland Parks and Recreation for like 8 years or something like that, just as a way to like have a consistent paycheck coming in. And then I would do freelance stuff. And then I would have a little bit of money coming in from YouTube, from AdSense, affiliate revenue. And then a lot of the times when I would get free stuff, I would just sell it on eBay if I didn't need it. So that's kind of like what my life looked like until I decided to go full time on YouTube. And then once full time, once I decided to quit my day job and just do YouTube, that's when I kind of kept myself on a schedule for like a year and a half to 2 years, like from 2020 to 2022. I tried to like release like a video a week, which I definitely like if I was going to go back, I would have not done that because I think that it kind of hindered my YouTube channel a little bit. I think that like the quality of my videos started to dip once I started, once I tried to like make that many videos. Like 4 videos a month doesn't seem like a lot, but when you're trying to make them, look and, like look really good and have good information that's also fun to watch, you can definitely see like a dip in quality when you try to do, like 1 video per week. So ever since I want to say like 2023 to now, I've been doing basically like 2 videos a month, it seems, 2 to 3 videos a month, which I think is a much more sustainable schedule for me. And sometimes not even that, like sometimes, I'll have like a bigger video that'll take, all month or whatever. But yeah, that's kind of like what my schedule looks like now is I have videos planned for, the month, and I don't necessarily have like a, Monday morning I'm shooting this, Tuesday morning I'm shooting this. I just have like these are the videos that I want to get done, and I'll film them out of order if I have to. But the way that my brain works is that like if I'm working on a video, I typically don't have another project open and also working on that. I typically try to get 1 video done. I'll have other stuff shot for like the next video, but I don't have 2 projects going at the same time. Like I finish one, upload it, start the next one.
Yeah, I mean that definitely makes sense. So you said you were doing 4 videos a week, and the 4 videos a month.
Yeah.
My bad. You found the quality was low. Was that just because you had to rush things, or was it just because you couldn't put all of your focus on that one video? You had to be thinking about the next, 4 videos for that month.
Yeah, I feel like it's just because I didn't necessarily have super big ideas and I just kind of put out filler videos, which I think is what a lot of YouTubers fall into. Like they don't have any like big ideas for big videos, or like not necessarily big videos, but like, videos that are actually going to, provide value or provide any kind of entertainment for anyone. And so they'll just put out like the filler videos are a lot of like what's in my camera bag, or, it's like those type of videos that like they're a dime a dozen. Everybody makes them and they only get like 200 to 1,000 views or whatever on most channels. So it's like, I did a lot of videos like that where it's just, they were just filler videos and they didn't do very well anyways. Whereas like if I just didn't make those at all and just put all my focus onto 2 videos during that month, I think my channel would have like maybe not grown as much, maybe it would have, but I definitely would have been a lot happier with the videos that I would have, put out during that 2-year period.
Yeah, no, that definitely makes sense, because you see a lot of those similar style videos from a lot of people, and it's like how many, like, every year people are like, oh, my camera kit for 2025, or, my desk makeover for 2025. And I'm like, how many times can you make this video before you just get bored of making videos like that? Like I think one of my favorite videos from you was the EOS M50 video.
Oh yeah, no, the original EOS M video.
That video.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I loved that video. It was very creative. It was very like you had a lot of good shots, and it was like a very well done video, and it held, I mean, I watch your videos because I'm, you're my friend and everything, but that one really kind of kept me wanting to watch. Like it was really well done, and I know that took you a pretty decent amount of time to get done.
Yeah.
So how do you find that like your content now reflects more of who you are and what you want to do?
Yeah, I definitely think that like the era of me making like the types of videos that I made back when my channel blew up, I think that that's kind of done for me. Like I'm not, I don't really want to like sit down in front of my camera and give you a shotgun microphone review or anything like that, which I was doing a lot of back in those days. But yeah, like my EOS M video, my GH5 video, what was the other video that I did? I have like this series that I'm doing of like all the cameras that I used to use back in the day. EOS M was one of them. The GH5 was one of them. I've done so many videos on the GH3, the 80D, but like those videos are more just like, like an ode to a camera, I guess. And one thing that I'm trying to like step back into, which I think I did a lot, like back in like the earlier times of my YouTube channel, is just use my unfair advantage of where I live. I live in a very beautiful part of the world. So, my buddy Nate came here and he's from Florida, and he's just like, wow, you could point the camera anywhere and you can make any camera look good, And like, I kind of like I know that in the back of my head, where it's just like, I could probably take a T2i and make it look really sick, because it got crazy mountains, and like, the Columbia River Gorge is just breathtaking. So I've kind of like leaned into that a little bit more, where it's just like, I might as well use what I have at my disposal. And so like the EOS M video was full of shots from here in Oregon. Same with a lot of my, like my camera review videos, but I've been leaning into that a little bit more. But I want to actually like start creating, like actual, because like I want to get into like the commercial space at some point. I'm gonna be 35 this year, and I kind of want to like start making a little bit of my career be in that world as well. So I definitely want to start making some like spec ads, and then just showcasing them on my channel, and then give a little bit about like a behind the scenes, which I know is what a lot of people do, but like that's like, I feel like if I can use my YouTube channel to help myself get better at a certain skill, like I feel like I don't have a lot of on-set experience, because my like my history was filming skateboarding and then filming weddings and then making YouTube videos, right? So I've only had a very few times where I've actually been on set and I've helped, either, gaff or, a camera operate for like actual, commercials or shorts. So I want to do more of that and kind of hone those skills a little bit more, because I'm not too proud to say that I'm, not very good at a lot of stuff, and I want to get better at it. So I think that's a really easy like way for me to use my YouTube channel to practice, but also make content for my audience.
Yeah, no, I get that. That kind of brings me into another thing of like you know where are you? You talked about it just for a second, but like what was it that made you, other than turning 35? What was it that made you want to get into the corporate commercial work more than like staying in the YouTube? I mean, obviously you'll stay in YouTube, but like,
Yeah.
what's made that transition or that want to do this kind of work?
Yeah, I think that like, I mean, maybe not so much corporate stuff, but definitely like commercial stuff. I've always, I don't know, I've always been kind of enamored with the idea of making, commercials that are, based around like an industry that I'm interested in, like the outdoor industry, the skate industry. And that's kind of where I would like to like shift my focus to. And I see a lot of potential to like, collaborate too with, a lot of friends of mine who are in the film industry. So that's kind of like my main thing is that like, I don't ever really expect it to like take over my YouTube channel. But if I, did a handful of commercials each year, like alongside making YouTube videos and then being able to like share my experience with my audience, I think that would just be sick.
And when you talk about commercials, are you talking more like skating type things, or are you talking more
Well,
like?
I'm talking like just like any commercial that's based in like, the outdoor space. Like I'm talking like, I mean, like if I did a commercial for Yeti or Danner Boots or, like something like that, like cause like, here in Oregon, like there's so many different like outdoor sports brands that like I would love to work with. And that's kind of like my dreams. Like if I can make some spec ads for like, showing what I could do, because I mean, I'm kind of an outdoorsman myself. Like I love being out in the woods. So if I could like mesh those two, I'd be stoked. Same thing with skateboarding. Like I would love to, get into making like, commercials within the skate industry too. But like right now, I think I'm just a little bit more like stoked on the idea of doing stuff for the outdoor industry because it's a lot more like, I don't know. I feel like it's a little bit more broad than skateboarding is.
No, I completely get that. I've been wanting to do some spec projects for a long time. I find that like it's hard to balance running my production company, doing client work and YouTube and all that, and spec projects. But I also often feel kind of caged and cooped up here in Texas because, well, it's not the prettiest of places. Coming from Seattle, it's a
Yeah.
big shift.
Yeah, that's how Jeremy and me connected. Is that like we're both Northwestern dudes. So
Yeah, and I was following you for a while, and then you moved to Texas, and I was like, well, hey, I was like, I just assumed because you had such a big following that you weren't even gonna check your, messages or whatever, and you ended up checking it, and we ended up like meeting, and I was like, oh, sick, and then it just kind of like you helped me out on a lot of things.
Yeah, we did a few projects down in Texas, which is pretty fun.
Yeah, I'm thankful that you helped me with that woodworking one because that project was like my like kryptonite. My project, I was like I could not get that thing done. Whatever I did. So
Yeah.
okay, so one of the things that I want to couple last questions. Do you have anyone in the YouTube space or commercial space or your personal life that was like a mentor or an inspiration for what you do?
Yeah, man. I mean, I definitely had like my mentor back when I was, first, starting, and I did that, that internship in Texas. His name's Darren. He's a filmmaker that works in like he works with slow motion cameras now a lot. So Darren Dyke definitely mentored me when I was first starting out. As far as like people that I look up to, there's a lot of filmmaking channels that I think I watch their stuff and I'm like just kind of blown away by like the stuff that that they're able to make, especially with like the budgets that they have. But like everybody, I love watching like Lewis Potts, Danny Gevirtz, Giancarlo Stigliano, all those guys, like super inspiring to see what they do on YouTube and in like their professional career. But yeah, I mean, I feel like I'm constantly finding new YouTube channels that like are just with like these really talented filmmakers and that I like have never heard of before. So I feel like I mean, if anything, I feel like YouTube is a really cool way to, discover different filmmakers with different tastes. And I just I definitely say that like my biggest inspiration right now is probably, man, I'm just going to say Danny Gevirtz is probably like my biggest inspiration right now. I feel like he's everybody's. I just love watching his stuff.
He's definitely one of mine. I love the stuff that he puts out, but it's interesting because one of the things that we've talked about is when you are like, let's say great at filmmaking, or you understand, video and all that stuff, you don't necessarily need to start a filmmaking channel. And I think that you gave me that idea and I kind of was like, oh yeah, like I like the filmmaking niche, but it's so saturated. It's like, how are you even going to break into that? But thinking about it, like, I've watched channels that are other than filmmaking because I really love other stuff. One of the guys that I've been watching recently is, I don't remember his name. I'll put it in the video version. I'll put it right here. But he's doing this like 1 year to become a rally driver by doing sim racing. And so like he's literally bought a cheap junky rally car, but he's like, in the sim, like he's like using his video knowledge to create a cool series. But he has other YouTube channels that he's leveraged to get sponsors so that he could do things. And it's really cool to like see how many different things there are on YouTube. And so I think maybe one of the things that I want to say is also, don't always just think about talking about what you do. Maybe find a hobby of yourself. And like Miranda and I have started our tech channel, and it's something that like I'm using my video knowledge and my video gear to create high quality videos in that niche, but it's something that's fun and it doesn't feel like work.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's definitely something that like, if you're a filmmaker and you want to start a YouTube channel, I'm all for starting a YouTube channel around filmmaking, but man, you could have such a leg up on any other niche if you just did literally anything else. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like there are so many niches with people who barely know what they're doing and they have like millions and millions of views. Can you imagine if you took your filmmaking knowledge into a different niche and you just made your stuff look 1,000 times better than anybody else? You could like, just sweep the floor with, whatever niche you wanted to, put your time and effort into. And I've definitely but I think I've talked about this on my podcast too, but it's just like when you're super into filmmaking, you end up really wanting to talk about filmmaking. And so you just naturally start making a filmmaking channel because you love talking about filmmaking. And so every filmmaker decides to start a filmmaking channel. And then it's just kind of like, there's a lot of repeat knowledge that just keeps getting circulated within the niche. But yeah, I would definitely encourage anyone, like if you are, if you're into, I don't know, pick whatever hobby you have and start a YouTube channel around that. You could probably do pretty well because it's probably not going to be as saturated with, talented filmmakers. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like a prime example actually is a channel that I love to watch. It's called Gears and Gasoline. And they come out with a video every Saturday, or usually every Saturday. And it's all about like modifying cars, doing things with cars, and like one of their big thing is they do these like road trips, and they're like multi-episode series. And they started as filmmakers that loved cars, and they started at least 10 years ago, I think, or like a long time ago, and they ended up making videos on cars and building cars and working on cars because that's what they love to do. And now they have 1 million subscribers or more. And it's like, cool because I followed them for a while, so it's cool to see their growth. And like, I think their quality has definitely kind of gone down a little bit. Just like they could color things better, they could, you know, do things better. But I understand that like you are running a YouTube channel, it's kind of hard to make it like, you know, when you're doing one a week, it is, you do see that the quality kind of goes a little bit down. But it's still cool to see that like YouTube is such a big space that you don't need to only do filmmaking if you're interested in filmmaking.
Yeah, I definitely. I mean, like there are people like the Peter McKinnons and the Matty Hapoyas who have shown that like there is, you know, million plus subscriber potential for the filmmaking and photography space. But at the same time, I definitely think that like this whole niche is kind of a like there is a ceiling to it essentially. Whereas like, you know, you take the amount of people that like filmmaking and the amount of people that like cars, there's probably going to be a vast, like a way bigger majority of people that like cars than like filmmaking, you know? But that's another thing though, too, is that like, you don't have to make your stuff look amazing. You know, it doesn't have to look like Roger Deakins, but it just has to be a little bit better than the guy who doesn't know what he's doing. You know what I mean? So it's like, if you can make your lighting or your coloring look just a little bit better than this guy shooting on his ZVE10 with his kit lens, then you're probably going to have a leg up, you know?
Yeah, no, exactly. I mean, there are plenty of channels that make like good videos that look good but aren't like the most cinematic videos in the entire world, and yet they get the point across. They do well. They're, you know, millions of subscribers, and it's kind of cool to see that like, you know, they use video as a way to like talk about what they love. So yeah. Speaking of things that, you know, things in the YouTube space, what is some advice that you would give someone starting out? Obviously, we kind of talked a little bit about that, but like, what's like some advice that you would give to somebody who's like, I want to do YouTube, you know, maybe they have a part-time job, like, what's some advice?
Yeah. I would definitely say don't. I feel like a lot of people they expect a lot out of their work, you know, because when you have a job, you go there, you put in the hours, you get a paycheck, you're expecting something out of it because you put something into it. That's not always the case with YouTube. You could put a lot of effort into a YouTube video and it could absolutely flop. It happens all the time. So you just have to kind of like go into YouTube with that knowledge. You know, if you're going to start a YouTube channel, don't expect literally anything from your channel because it will probably take a long time for your channel to like get some momentum. That's the first thing I would say. You know, when I first started on YouTube, the whole idea of being a YouTuber wasn't even a thing. No one had that thought. So it's, you know, it's easy for me to say, but it's like, I feel like a lot of people go into YouTube because they, you know, they want to, you know, be a content creator full time. And it's just, sometimes it works, but more often than not, you're going to fall flat on your face the first couple of times you try to make a YouTube video and post it. So that's the first thing I would say. Second thing is don't put too much pressure on yourself to go full time with YouTube. There's nothing wrong with working a part-time or a full-time job while you're trying to make a YouTube channel. It is hard, but you know, I worked, you know, part-time at I worked part-time at Portland Parks and Rec for 8 years while doing YouTube. And I think that it was a great decision because I could, you know, consistently have a paycheck, but also see what was going to work on YouTube. And then I would just say like, don't put too much pressure on yourself to like keep to a consistent schedule. I know these are very like practical, you know, tips and maybe not so much, you know, philosophical tips, but like don't put too much pressure on yourself to keep to a certain schedule on YouTube. I think we were talking about that earlier, but that's when I think the quality starts to dip. You know, you can hustle really hard and, you know, try to do like the weekly vlog or the daily vlog, you know, but at some point you're going to burn out. And as someone who's been on YouTube for, you know, I don't know how many years it's been, since 2006, it's coming up on 20 years now. Like, the reason that I haven't burnt out is because I haven't done anything like that. Like, I have never done a weekly vlog. I've never done a daily vlog. I've done YouTube at my own pace, and that's how I've stuck with it for so long. So that would be like my last piece of advice, is that, like, don't keep yourself to a ridiculous schedule that you're not going to be able to actually, like, commit to. For where I'm at right now, I think the 2 videos per month schedule works perfectly for me. Some people might have a lot more time and are a lot less concerned about, the content or the quality of it. You can do, a little bit more than that. But yeah, those are the things that I would say. And then just, again, I think if you take nothing else away from like the advice that I would give, I would just say, don't, like, go into it expecting nothing. That's what I would say. And ask yourself, if you never became a YouTuber, if you never made any money off of it, would you still be making videos and uploading them so that other people could see? Because I think that'll really, it'll put things into perspective for you, I think.
I think that's incredibly important because, we all want to have that financial freedom or that schedule freedom or whatever it is that we want. But when you expect, and I'm speaking from personal experience too, from our many conversations, when you expect something to happen, it can really discourage you from doing things that you enjoy.
Yeah.
And yeah, I want to, because I forgot to cover this earlier, I want to talk real quick, because this could be a whole other conversation, but like, when it comes to the business side of things, how do you tell people that YouTube is more than just posting videos? It's also, can you be like business financially literate somewhat, even? Like, speak on that a little bit too, because I feel like, again, people go in thinking, oh, this is financial freedom, this is schedule freedom, but like, you do kind of need to know how to run a business. So
Yeah, I think that, like, I don't know, I think this is with like any platform. Like, YouTube isn't really what is making me money. You know what I mean? It's the fact that I have an audience that's making me money. Like AdSense doesn't pay you really anything. Again, I get like maybe $300 a month on AdSense with YouTube. So how do I sustain myself with $300 a month? You can't, obviously, right? So you have to figure out other forms of revenue. And the other forms of revenue, at least as a YouTuber, are affiliate sales, selling, digital products on your website, sponsorships, that kind of stuff. And so you have to leverage your audience in order to, like, make revenue that way. And so, yeah, if you're going into YouTube thinking that you're going to, pay your rent with AdSense money, like, you're probably going to need to be in like the getting 60 to 100,000 views every single video. And if you're not there, then you're probably not going to be, paying very many bills with AdSense money. So it really does come down to, figuring out how much you're going to charge for sponsorships. There's a lot of, videos on, dealing with sponsors and stuff like that. I'm not really the best person to talk to, but that's like something that I had to learn from trial and error, is like, okay, what do I want to charge for a 60-second ad read? So there is a little bit of learning, and it does start to feel like you're just working a freelance job at the end of the day, especially when you're working with sponsors. But figuring out what's going to sell on your website as far as digital products, and then affiliate revenue. Sometimes I'll post videos that I know might not perform on the view count, but I know that they're going to perform in the conversions of affiliate sales. So that's just like some things that you're going to need to learn and, take into consideration if you're going to be a YouTuber. But I think that the same thing could be said if you have a huge Instagram following. You could probably leverage your followers in a very similar way. I do think that it's easiest to do it on YouTube, because on Instagram, it's a little bit harder to post affiliate links or actually get people to go to your website. But on YouTube, it's a lot easier. But I think that's where, it's not necessarily YouTube that's making me money. It's the fact that I have an audience there and I can funnel them into different, places that I can make revenue.
Yeah, that's it's good. It's good advice. I've seen too many people, especially now recently. I've seen a lot of people kind of go more full time into YouTube, and it's like number one, I don't think they're ready. I've watched them
Hmm.
enough. I don't think they're ready. Number two, I feel like once people really start to make that leap, I notice that their content changes, and it
Yeah.
becomes let me sell this product, let me talk about gear because I know I can put affiliate revenue or affiliate links in the in the description and people will buy it. And it
Hmm.
almost to me it almost ruins channels. I much prefer the channels of people who like still do the work. Like one of the people that I think about is Joshua Martin or Cine Dailies. Like
Yeah.
he does great product reviews. He does not post very frequently. I think
Hmm.
probably once or twice a month, but he does really good in-depth reviews from a production standpoint on these products. And it's like, he
Yeah.
has a full-time income, so he doesn't need
Yeah.
this, but he does really good breakdowns. And it's interesting to see like the differences between people who do gear reviews, you know, I'm not going to name names here, but do gear reviews like for their channel versus people who talk about gear in the realm of using it for work so we can get an idea of is this going to be, good for what we do.
Yeah, and that's kind of the problem that happens, I think, with a lot of filmmaking channels is that like you start out doing freelance work, doing client work, and then you make a YouTube channel, and then you end up getting so big on YouTube that you don't have to take on as much client work, and then you go from like showing practical examples of how you are using the gear to only showing examples in your office or something like that. And I'm probably guilty of this as well, but it's just like, and then you just go straight into like you're just a YouTuber now and you don't even use the gear in any practical situation. And again, I'm probably just as guilty as this is like anybody else, but like I do think that's like that's the cycle that a lot of filmmaking channels fall into is that like, hey, you started watching them because like, oh wow, these guys are actually using this gear on set. I can take them seriously. I can like listen to their critiques because they actually have real world experience with it. But then they transition into being a YouTuber and it's like, okay, where's your real world experience now? It's gone. So why am I watching you again? You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, exactly. That's I think the problem is I've seen too many people do that, especially in the recent times that like it's almost like people use their platform or their their work, their commercial work to get them a platform on YouTube so that they can then kind of stop doing the work for their clients and instead just do whatever they want on YouTube because sponsors will pay you. At least maybe I'm wrong in here, but sponsors will pay you and kind of let you use the gear how you want to make whatever you want to make.
Yeah, I definitely wouldn't say that they like use their freelance career to make a YouTube channel, but I definitely think that they leverage it, which I think is a great idea. I think it's like it's really smart. But yeah, there is a it's really like alluring to say instead of working for X client and doing this and having all like these different stipulations of what I can and can't make for the client and them having to like do all these approvals, why don't I just make what I want to make for this lens manufacturer? I can make a spec ad for them or I can make a short film for them however I want to. I get to use the lens and I get to get paid for it. That sounds way more appealing than making a toothpaste commercial or something like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I still prefer the client work, but that's a personal thing. I don't know. I
Yeah.
It's more fun for me to work with the client and do things and know that I'm helping a client rather than just using it for just doing something because you know someone's paying me to make a video.
Yeah.
So anyway, well, man, it's a pleasure always.
Yeah, dude.
Uh,
I'm glad we could make this work out this time.
yeah,
For anyone We had some technical difficulties when I was down in Texas.
Yeah, I was using a platform, won't say names, but I was using a platform, and we wanted to do this while we were in the same room, and I messed some things up because there was just a lot of technical difficulties with this platform that we were using, and so I was kind of like not focused on my own audio, and yeah, it was real bad. And when you AI'd it, it sounded like I was a robot. And I was like, yeah, it's not going to work for me. So thankfully, Nigel was able to redo it. So anyway, I will put your link here or in the description for people to want to go check out your videos channel and your second channel. Yeah, again, I just appreciate you taking time and talking knowledge of YouTube. I think it's really important to hear from somebody who's like been doing it for so long, like, and seen how the cycle happens. So,
Yeah.
yeah. Anyway,
Cool, man.
thank
Dude,
you.
thanks for having me, man.
Yeah,
It was
of course.
fun.
Yep.
All right.
All right.
Later.